Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Unarmored Talk podcast. We have another amazing guest who's willing to remove their armor to help others live a better life. But before I introduce our amazing guest today, don't forget there's going to be a little card that's going to pop up on the screen and on my other videos. It is the 2022 charity golf tournament for Still Serving Incorporated. Make sure you click on that thing and find ways to support anytime you can. And follow me on paradedeck.com. One click. Get you all access to Mario P. Fields. Well, I'm done with all that stuff. Delyth Matthews, are you ready?
Yeah, I am. Hiya.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Delyth Matthews from Great Britain. Thank you. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you so much for having me.
Shoot, my pleasure. I mean, what time is it there? Midnight?
Not quite. About 7 p.m.
We'd have to do another episode if we talked about how you and I actually met and how this came about. It is I can't put it into words.
Yeah, it was random. It was fate.
It was. I totally agree with you. Faith is very powerful. And everyone knows I have Christian beliefs. So I believe that God connected us through faith. And here we are. So tell the listeners and viewers a little bit about yourself.
So, like you said, I'm from Great Britain. So you do have a proper global reach. I'm a pretty lucky person, I think. I'm a mum of 5 lovely kids. They're all doing amazing. The littlest is at school. The eldest has just started to learn to become a nurse. So I'm really proud of them. We live in a small village, sort of near Southampton in the south of England. It's lovely here, lots of friends, part of the community. And over the last few years, I've been lucky enough to get a job that I not only love, but I do think is a bit of a privilege, and that's working for the UK Fire Service. My husband's a firefighter too, so it's a bit of a family thing. I'm a watch manager or watch commander in fire control, which is like your dispatch. So we take all the emergency calls, we mobilize, we act as the initial commander, making all the tactical decisions in the beginning stages. And we hear some pretty harrowing things. It can be a tough job. We work under a lot of pressure, but I'm lucky enough to have an amazing team. I'm proud to be able to call myself their leader, and it's just a job I love, and my team make it a pleasure going to work. So I'm a lucky lady.
Wow. Well, what I'm going to do here, hold on for a second. See, if you're listening to this, you can't see it, so you got to go on my YouTube channel and check it out. But I have this microphone. It's a silver microphone. I'm going to salute you with this microphone for you just volunteering to do a tough job. Right. And so here's the deal. I raised this microphone in honor of Delyth Matthews. Can I call you D?
You can call me D. And my team. It's not just me.
And so here you've earned the silver mic.
Thank you.
So you gave us this wonderful introduction. 5 children, happily married, living in Great Britain, doing amazing things, meaningful work.
Yeah, very meaningful.
Very positive person, but this is Unarmored Talk.
Yeah.
From my basic limited understanding, D, you were homeless at one point in your life.
Yeah. So, like I said, I see myself as a lucky person, but and on the whole, I've got everything pretty good right now, but it didn't used to be like that. And for a long time, a really long time, my past was I guarded it like a really close secret, and hardly anyone knew about my past, not even my husband. When we first met, wow. I would not talk to him about my past.
So you were pretty armored.
I was like tank armored. There was no getting through my walls. I was like a tank.
You were triple armored.
A triple armored, like titanium. And it's only a couple of years ago that I started to talk about it. And it was a couple of things. So when I worked my way up through the fire service, I was doing more leadership things, and we were talking about imposter syndrome and things like that, and changing the way you think. But more than anything, it was having teenagers of my own. And I suddenly thought, how can I tell them not to judge people and how to be kind to people, and tell them that when the bad things happen, that it's not going to define their whole life, when I'm living in the shadows of my past. And like you said, you call this the Unarmored podcast, and I was armored right up to the hill. If you want to get over something, you have to open up and get vulnerable, and only then can you own your fears and move on. And that's what made me start talking about it, and the realization that maybe if I can show that you can move on from a tough start, that maybe I could help someone.
Yeah. So let's talk about that tough period of your life. You know, when we say homeless, I believe the listeners and viewers will have many different interpretations of what, you know, what caused you to be homeless. But what age were you, and how long did this period of turbulence last?
So I started really from about 15, on and off, right through to finally getting a permanent address at about 24. Wow. So it was over 10 years, but it was on and off. And, you know, that is kind of life, isn't it? You take one step forward and two back sometimes, and you get knocked down and you get up and you try again. So it was over about 10 years.
Yeah. And you grew up now before this occurred, you actually lived in a wonderful neighborhood. I want to say a beautiful family, wonderful life.
Yeah. So everything's pretty good now, and it started off pretty good as well. I grew up I had quite a privileged childhood. I grew up in a nice big house. We had big gardens that went down to a river at the bottom of the garden. Very nice, like fairy tale, you know, thatched cottages, pretty little village, near Salisbury. And I went to private school in the beginning. I had deportment lessons and elocution lessons, and you know, it was very privileged. My parents worked away a lot, so I was kind of farmed off to aunts or my grandmother, and it wasn't a close family. It wasn't unhappy at all, but it wasn't a close family. And I was pretty academic. I did well at school, so I got into a good school where I studied languages, among other things.
Yeah, so here you are, teenager, doing great, and then you take a trip to another country, and and just so happened there's some military coup going on, and you get caught. Right. You get caught right in the middle.
Yeah, right. And so like I said, I was studying languages. This opportunity came up for us to go to it was an Eastern Bloc country. It was very unusual to be able to go there. Mm-hmm. There was lots of rules. This is right at the end of the Cold War, so you know, I'm not going to give away my age because a lady doesn't do that. But it was a while ago.
We'll give you what, 27? We'll give you 27.
Oh, thank you. So it was the end of the Cold War. It was a big thing, and it seemed like a very glamorous thing. You know, no one I knew other than this group of girls, there was about 30 of us, were having this opportunity, and I thought it was going to be life-changing, and it was just not in the way I was expecting. So none of us could have anticipated what it was going to be like. Like I said, we had a really privileged, it's all about the same. We had a pretty privileged life. We lived in a very, very quintessential British place. And then all of a sudden we're in this very foreign land, and it was very different. And because of the type of trip it was, we were sent to stay with families. So we went there, and then we flew on to another city, which was fighting for independence. And we stayed with families there. So you were sent to your own family that you stayed with, and you didn't see your friends hardly at all. Now, at 15, being probably the first time I was ever out of the country, this is way before mobile phones, way before the internet, way before anything like that of keeping in touch. It was, the family I was staying with was kind and lovely, but it was so isolating. It was so different. And the country had its troubles. They had a beautiful street of fountains that they wanted to run all day long, looking gorgeous. The offshoot was the residents only had running water for 1 hour a day because there wasn't enough water to go around. So at 6 a.m. you had to get up and you had to turn all the taps on and fill the bathtub and fill the sinks and fill pots and pans, and that was your water for the day. There was queues for food, and they looked after me really, really well, that family, really well. But it was so different. It was so different from what I knew. We're away from my family for the first time, away from my friends. And, you know, this country had been struggling for independence. They were in a long-standing war. You know, when they took us on a day trip, they said, oh, you might be able to hear the gunfire. It was frightening. And then we went back to the sort of capital city, and that's where it got tougher. That was when and no one could have predicted that we would time it for getting there. A group of 30 girls, we had 2 teachers, and we managed to time it in time for a military coup. And I remember there was 3 of us in a hotel room watching through the windows. The tanks came down the street, the soldiers with guns, and just that fear, that intense fear. And then it was difficult. It was really difficult. We like I said, we had 2 teachers. We were girls that just had no real concept, no street smarts, nothing like that. And there was no rules at that time in that place. The hotel we were in was not in a good part of town.
So there was no protection.
There was no protection. And
at all. Yeah.
My friend had been flirting with these guys during the day.
Yeah.
Foolishly, she had given them our hotel room number.
Oh no.
And they broke into our hotel room. And I think that's when you learn how brutal the world can be. Now we got out of that country a few days later, but we may have looked fit and well, but I can tell you, not one, there was 3 girls in that hotel room and not one of us came out unscathed. But we'd made not like a real pact, but shame is very silencing. We were ashamed of what happened. We felt we'd brought it on ourselves.
Right.
So we didn't speak about it. We held it all inside. And I can say now that I had PTSD. So when I came back home, the fallout was some real tough teenage years. I was suffering PTSD. I didn't know that at the time. Flashbacks, and so real that you can smell the smells and almost feel the touch. But when you're ashamed and you cloak yourself in this armor because you think by not saying it's not real. It's really difficult. And essentially my family couldn't understand because I couldn't tell them what had happened.
Right.
They didn't understand. They just saw a teenage girl going off the rails. And I did go off the rails. I started drinking. I started dating much older boys, coming back at 3 a.m. And eventually my dad had had enough.
Right.
And he told me to leave. And they didn't ask where to go or anything. I had to leave.
Right. And you know, all of that, you know, started from, bad. I won't say the word bad. I would say experience that you weren't expecting, and that caused traumatic injury, right? Traumatic memories. And like you said, you became armored, which inspired more behaviors that were not behaviors that you look back, you go, I wouldn't do that today, as far as that. And so as now, you know, mom and dad, right? Dad is going, I had enough. You know, you're armored, you're watching, you know, you're doing things that are probably not productive.
Yeah.
When dad said I had enough, where did you go?
So I went to a friend of a friend. I would stay on people's sofas. I spent most of my time. My friend's older sister had a little tiny bedsit. It was squalid. It was not nice. I lived on dried food, packet food, and I still went to school. Wow. Like all through this, I would still go to school because I loved learning. I wanted a bit of normality. I wanted my friends, and I was ashamed to say what was happening. So I would put on this front. I would pretend that everything was okay. My friend's sister would let me stay in it was just a room, essentially. You know, it's not like she had much. It was just a room that she rented off someone, and she would let me sleep there. But it was tough, you know. It was tough. Sometimes I remember one night getting caught out in the rain, and I only had the clothes I was wearing, and I was so cold when I came back to the house, but I had nothing to change into, so I just stayed in those wet clothes, and I got chest infection after chest infection, and I've got permanent lung damage now from being ill so many times, and the living conditions and subsequent, you know, I've had subsequent illnesses since, which kind of added to it. But it all started from that kind of not looking after myself, not knowing how to look after myself. Like I said, I grew up in this idyllic little thing. I had no street smarts. I didn't know how to look after myself. I was just trying to survive.
And you know, it's interesting how you chose to continue your education. You know, you're living with these challenges that you know, are very difficult for you to live and maneuver, but yet you still choose to go to school, which is, just for me, I believe that's impressive because it's a choice.
Yeah, it is a choice. Yeah, and I guess I didn't think about it at the time. I just wanted to be with my friends. I just wanted that like bit of normal life, right? And so I didn't think about it at the time. But also, you know, education. If you can get education, that can be your ticket out of all sorts of things. Yeah, and I always would say that to anybody, that if you get, and it can be really hard to get education, like, you know, it's not easy for everybody, right? But if you can get an education, that can be your ticket out of a bad life. Yeah, here you are. So here you are now, dad's going, I had enough, baby girl, right? I've had enough. You're bouncing around friends' homes. You're cold and wet. You're in the elements.
And I think there's a phone booth somehow. You end up in some type of phone booth. Talk to me about that.
So that's, later on. So I would go back home for a bit, then it would all start again. And when I was 18, I decided I'd met a guy, I was going to move in with him. It wasn't a particularly good life choice, I'm going to say right now. It wasn't a particularly good life choice. He was addicted to drugs. And as he was addicted to drugs, I was addicted to him. So I'd cleaned myself up a little bit. I blamed the drinking that I'd done for my parents not wanting me. But he was addicted to drugs, and it made him a monster.
Yeah.
He was a mean, he became a mean guy. He didn't start off a mean guy, but he became one. And I tried to speak to my parents and go back home, but they didn't feel they could help me at the time. And it got to the point where he was a very violent man. He was very violent. And I ended up having to just walk out. And again, I've been, I had friends and I would sleep on their sofas when I could, but it wouldn't always work out like that.
Right.
And I still had this cloak of shame, this silence of shame.
Right.
So I wasn't asking for help. I was ashamed to say, I've got no, when people said, I'm afraid, sorry, you can't stay here tonight, I was ashamed to say, I've got nowhere else. And that was when I would sleep in phone boxes to get out of the rain. And it doesn't do anything to get you out of the cold, believe me. But I would sleep in the phone boxes. I would sleep in the bushes to get out of the rain and get out of the cold.
Wow. And I like how and I'm going to make sure. So in America, you would call them phone booths back. I'm not going to say my age. I think I'm 32, but I like that phone. So phone box. I like that phone box. So you know what they say?
Exactly how you would imagine one of the red British phone box, like on the postcards from London.
Yeah, it'll be on a thumbnail too, so everyone will be able to see it. That is wow. So now you're in bushes and
sleeping in parks, in phone boxes.
And so
this is low. This is low where I am now.
Right, but the thing is, you didn't give up. You're still trying to figure things out, but you're not giving up. So talk to us about what was the moment? When did it occur that now all of a sudden it seems like, and I don't like to use a cliche, so I won't, this is Unarmored Talk. When did things start to change for you?
It was when I was sleeping like that. So I had, like I said, he was a violent guy. He'd attacked me with a knife. I had a really bad cut on my arm. And I was in this, I had a bit of super glue, and I was trying to glue my arm back together because I didn't want to go to the hospital. I was scared of being found out. I don't even know why. If I'd gone to hospital, they would have looked after me. But your mind is in a crazy place. So I was trying to sleep with, trying to super glue this wound shut in this phone box. And I just thought, I'm going to die like this. This is me done. And I just couldn't be done. Like that was it, that realization that either I do something or I'm gonna die. Like maybe not right then, but I was cold all the time. I was ill all the time. I was so thin. so thin because I wasn't eating. I just couldn't see a way out. So I had to do something. And what I did was one step at a time. So I would go to the library, in I don't know how it is in America, but in the UK, the libraries would be open, they're free to go in, they were warm, they were dry. Like I said, I love learning reading, I love reading. And it was somewhere where I could go and be warm and dry. And I went there and I would get the local newspaper, and I started applying for jobs because I'd got education. I had education.
Right.
So I started applying for jobs, and I couldn't drive or anything. I had to apply for where I could walk to, and I kept doing it until one day I got a job offer. Well, I got an interview. I went to a charity shop which like a thrift store, and spent what little money I had on a smart outfit. Got myself ready in a supermarket store toilets, and I walked. It was about 2.5 miles, 3 miles to the interview, and I did an interview, and I didn't get the job. I didn't get the job, but I didn't give up.
Right.
I did it again. I just kept trying because there was no choice. The only other choice was accepting this was my life, and I was not going to do that.
Right. So you said hey, all right, here's the deal. You said I have two choices. I'm going to think through this and continue to apply for jobs until I can get on my feet, or the other one, I'm just going to lay here and die, and that ain't happening.
That ain't happening. That's not happening. You know, and real life's not a fairy tale. Real life is not like making this sudden, right, that's it, I'm going to change my life and everything falling into place. That's not how it works. You put yourself out there and then you got knocked back, but you could get up again, because you're not written off until you decide you're written off. No one else gets to write you off.
Right.
You just have to keep getting up. All the time you can look up, you can get up. And that's what you have to do. And sometimes it's tough, and sometimes you just want to sit and cry and think it's never going to happen. But what's the alternative?
Yeah. And now look at today. Look at today. 5 wonderful kids, children, a wonderful husband. I mean, and again, ladies and gentlemen, if you look at the thumbnail on the video, beautiful family. But there's also 2 pictures, and there's going to be, right, there's one with this kind of rusty, dirty looking phone box, and then there's this beautiful one with Dee, her husband, and wonderful children. Close us out on, how did we get, is that the same phone box?
It's not exactly the same phone box, but it is from the area that I was sleeping with. So like I said, I kept going. And then one day I got that job offer. And in fact, in the same week, I got a job offer, and I got an offer for a flat to rent and help from the council to rent, because when you start opening up and asking for help, there's help there. So I'd gone, when I was applying to jobs, I'd gone to the council, I'd said, I'm homeless. I got put on the official homeless list, and I got put on the list for housing. And it all came in 1 week. It was, it was incredible. It was incredible. And I had nothing to start off with. I had my flat. It was completely empty, apart from a mattress on the floor. That was all I owned, a mattress on the floor. And that was like a kingdom to me.
Right.
And then I just kept growing. The job I got was in the fire service, and it was as a admin girl, like just doing the admin. And I worked and I worked and I worked until I got my dream job, which was in the fire control. And
nice.
you know, I've not looked back. But one day, a couple of years ago, just weirdly, and I know we talked about fate. So just after I'd been on this course and I'd started talking about my past for the first time, my husband didn't know that I used to sleep in phone boxes until a couple of years ago.
Wow.
And it was after starting to open up, they were selling off phone boxes from the area that I'd been sleeping rough. And I said, I'm going to own my past. Like, literally, I'm going to own my past. So I talked him into us spending a ridiculous amount of money on a rusted, broken old thing. And I wanted it in our back garden. And we've got no real side access. We've got a little path that comes up the side. You can't get like a truck up there or anything. Those phone boxes are made out of cast iron. So they weigh like 750 kilos, I think, something like that. But if I want something, I'll work until I get it. So all those times they're saying, you can't do that. You can't just have it in the front. Like, you know, just make it easy on yourself.
Right.
All they're doing, if someone tells you that you can't do something, they're just telling you what they can't do.
Right.
So I was determined. So the phone box, 750 kilos, I weigh about 50 kilos. And I dragged that thing using block and tackle and engineering and getting my husband to help me, but I dragged that thing into place where I wanted it.
That is.
And then I painted it up and turned it into a bar. So it was battered and broken, like I was battered and broken.
Wow.
But there's beauty in broken things. You just got to look for it.
No, that is inspirational. And I like how you said, you know, own your past. Look at what happened. You can't change it. Accept it. Own it.
Yeah.
But now what are you going to do next? The future is bright.
Who knows? Who knows?
And that's what I just heard from you is you had all of these unexpected life events once you became a teenager. You got to a point where you look back and say, you know what, it happened.
Yeah.
And I'm going to own it. I'm not going to blame myself for it.
Yeah.
And now look at what you did. I bought my past.
I bought my past. It's out there. I bought my past. I scrubbed it up, and it's looking good now.
He said, not only did I buy my past, I own it. I'm not proud of it, but it is. And I cleaned it up, and now look. Yeah, you're amazing. That is amazing. If you could leave the listeners and viewers any piece of advice as we get ready to wrap up.
Yeah.
Because I could talk to you all day. I mean, this could be an 8-hour episode, but
it could. I could talk all day as well. So you're lucky. You're lucky. This could go on forever.
Oh, trust me. Oh, I can't. This is good. But if you could leave our listeners and viewers with anything, what would you leave them with? Like
I said, you know, you see me now, and I look like I have everything now. But when I was a teenager, this would have been an impossible dream for me. So you can't control what life throws at you, what challenges you get, but you get to choose how you deal with them. You can control how you react to it. So don't forget, like I said, you're not written off until you decide you're written off. You're not a victim, you're a warrior. Get up and fight. And the past, it shapes you, but it doesn't define you. And that would be it, really. Your past doesn't have to define you. You get to choose who you are.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard her from Delyth Matthews. We call her D. Your past doesn't define you. It doesn't define you. What you do from the past, right? How you move forward in life is what starts to define you. I truly appreciate you. Thank you so much from all of us here, I can't speak on behalf of everyone. So from the Unarmored Talk team to you overseas, thank you so much.
Thank you for giving me the chance to talk.
Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, till next time, God bless you all. We'll see you again.